There are crimes so disturbing, so cruel, that they haunt not only the victims' families, but entire nations. This is the story of Junko Furuta, a 17-year-old girl from Japan, whose life was stolen in one of the most horrifying crimes in modern history. Her case shook Japan to its core, raised serious questions about justice, and left behind a legacy that still chills those who hear it. Tonight, we look back at the heartbreaking story of Junko Furuta, the girl who endured 44 days of unimaginable terror. To understand the tragedy, we must first know who Junko was. Born in 1971, Junko Furuta grew up in Misato, a suburban town just outside of Tokyo. She was known for being responsible, polite and diligent in school. Teachers described her as bright and hardworking, while friends remembered her as cheerful and dependable. Unlike many teenagers, Junko didn't drink, smoke, or party. She focused on her studies and part-time job, saving up money for her future. She dreamed of a quiet, stable life. To those who knew her, she seemed like an ordinary girl, someone you might walk past in the school hallways. Realizing she would become the center of one of Japan's darkest stories. It was November 25th, 1988. Junko was on her way home from work. She had been riding her bicycle when she was suddenly stopped by a boy she knew. What Junko didn't realize was that this meeting was no coincidence. 4 teenage boys had planned her abduction. They were part of a local gang, already involved in petty crimes, and wanted to see how far they could go. The boys tricked her into coming with them, then forced her into captivity. She would not see her family again. From that moment, Junko's life took a turn into darkness, one that no one could have imagined. Junko Furuta's disappearance might have looked, on the surface, like another runaway case. Her parents reported her missing, but in the late 1980s, police often assumed teens left home voluntarily. In reality, Junko was being held against her will inside a suburban home in Ayase, a quiet neighborhood near Tokyo. For 44 days, she was kept hidden from the outside world. Neighbors passed by, unaware of what was happening behind closed doors. Even her parents, desperate for answers, couldn't have imagined that their daughter was only a few miles away. Junko's ordeal is described in chilling detail in court records. She endured unthinkable cruelty at the hands of her captors. Details too disturbing to share here. What is important to remember is that Junko showed extraordinary resilience. Despite the suffering, she never gave up hope that she might be saved. Day after day, the calendar turned, yet Junko remained trapped in silence. For her, time must have felt endless. By January 1989, Junko had endured 6 weeks in captivity. Her strength was remarkable, but her body could only take so much. On January 4th, her ordeal came to a tragic end. Her captors, realizing she would not survive, placed her remains into a drum filled with concrete. They abandoned the barrel at a construction site, as though trying to bury their crime in the silence of the city. For weeks, no one knew the truth. The Furuta family still held on to the hope that their daughter might return. That hope was shattered when investigators discovered the concrete drum. Inside, they found Junko. The case broke open almost by chance. Police had been investigating another crime committed by the same group of boys. During questioning, one suspect slipped, mentioning details about Junko that investigators hadn't revealed publicly. Soon the truth unraveled. The boys confessed, and officers traced the crime back to the suburban home. When the extent of Junko Furuta's suffering was revealed, even seasoned detectives were shaken. Many said it was one of the most horrific cases they had ever encountered in their careers. Japan's public was horrified. For a country with low violent crime rates, the cruelty of this case was almost beyond comprehension. The 4 boys responsible for Junko's death were arrested and brought to trial. But what happened next shocked the nation even further. Because they were juveniles at the time of the crime, Japanese law protected their identities and offered reduced sentences. Despite the unimaginable nature of the crime, the sentences ranged from only a few years to just over a decade. The public was outraged. How could such cruelty be answered with such leniency? For many, it was not only a betrayal of Junko, but also of justice itself. Junko Furuta's case left scars on Japan that have never fully healed. Her story highlighted serious flaws in the juvenile justice system, sparking debates that continue today. Activists demanded harsher penalties for young offenders who commit violent crimes. But beyond laws and courts, Junko's tragedy became a symbol, a reminder of innocence lost and of a society's responsibility to protect its children. Even decades later, her name is remembered. For those who study true crime, her case is often cited as one of the most disturbing in history. But above all, she is remembered as a victim whose story must never be forgotten. Junko Furuta's life was stolen far too soon. She should have been remembered for her kindness, her dreams, and her future. Instead, she became the face of one of Japan's darkest crimes. But by telling her story, we keep her memory alive. And perhaps in remembering, we take one small step toward making sure tragedies like this are never repeated. This has been the story of Junko Furuta. Thank you for listening, and may she rest in peace.